Hey guys, I hope you're all doing okay. We are in the final week of this 6 week winter session. That means we are basically going to focus on two really important things: the children's story, which you've kind of been working on and off for the last few weeks, and then also the essay that's going to be based on the children's story. Okay, so there's the story itself, which you're going to write and turn in, and that's worth its own points. And then there's the research paper, and the research paper is based on that story. So, in other words, we've been analyzing things with our essays, right? We did an analysis of a fairy tale, you did an analysis of a satirical movie. Now you're going to do an analysis of your own writing. So, what that means is you need to get that story done. Today, we ought to really focus on that, okay? So, I'm not giving you anything else other than one resource to help you get through with writing this children's story so that hopefully you can have it done by today or tomorrow, let's say, so that you've got the rest of the week to just worry about the essay. So, that means we really got to concentrate on knocking out this story right now so that you've got some material to work with when we're doing the essay. So, I have uploaded a worksheet for you to help you with that process. It's this guy right here. It should look kind of familiar because whereas the last time you saw a worksheet like this, it was introducing you to the idea of those 7 elements of literature. Remember these guys: plot, character, point of view, symbolism, setting, style, and theme. And I told you a few weeks back when we first started talking about this at the beginning that these elements need to be in your story. So this children's story that you're writing, this story that's for kids, this children's book that is not a book, remember, it's just a story, we simplified it. It has to have these 7 elements. It has to have a plot. It has to have characters. It has to have a point of view. So all 7 of those need to be found in your story. They need to be used in your story so that you can write about them when you're doing your research paper. If you're missing one of these, that means you're ultimately going to be missing a body paragraph, and that's going to affect your final grade on the essay. So all 7 of these have to be there. If you've written a version of the story already, that's fine. You can still rework it. If you're missing 1 or 2 of these guys, you can always go back and add these elements in later, right? The story's not chiseled in stone. It's always a work in progress. You can always go back and make changes. So don't freak out if you've already written your story and you suddenly realize, wait a minute, I forgot to have characters, which would be a really weird way to write a book, but it's possible. So I wanted to take you through each one of these sort of like as a practice go, okay, a practice session. I'm going to use my own story. Remember when I did the mind map about brainstorming a story, and I gave you my own example of a couple of bunnies who basically got lost in a forest and some things happened and they learned a lesson. That was the story I was working with. I'm going to continue with that. I'm going to take you through each one of these elements, okay, and apply it to my fake story so that you can get an idea of what it is I'm looking for and what it is these things actually mean to your story. So let's just work through them briefly, one at a time, all right? We'll start with plot right here. My story has to have a plot. So does yours. Here's my plot. Here's what I'm going to write right here on these 5 lines. So I'm going to make one up right now. My plot is about a bunny who goes on an adventure with his parents in the middle of a forest. He gets separated from his parents and ends up going on an adventure, meeting other characters in the forest as he learns a lesson about exploring the world around him, okay? I know that's not brilliant, but I'm making this up off the top of my head right now. But can you see how that works? I basically told you in a very simplified way what the story is. I've got these characters and something has to happen to them. That's it, okay? My characters are a family of bunnies. There's a baby bunny, there's a mom, and there's a dad, all bunnies, okay? I'm going to have some secondary characters too that he's going to meet in the forest. I think there's going to be a deer and maybe a bear and maybe a snake and possibly one more, something that lives in water, maybe some type of a fish or something like that. That's it. Those are my characters. I don't have to give any more information than that. This is just a skeleton, right? Just an outline. Point of view. Now you'll remember, if you looked up the definition when we filled in the first worksheet weeks ago about these 7 elements, Point of view has to do with the narrator. So that means you need to have a narrator, okay? Someone is telling your story. How you tell the story is up to you, but somebody has to be doing it, and it has to be from a point of view. Normally, first person and third person are the most popular points of view to tell a story from. For the most part, it's actually usually going to be third person. Third person means that there's a narrator, but he's telling the story about someone else, okay? If he says he did this and she said this and the bunny approached her and they did this, that's third person. First person. First person is I, which means I am now part of the story, okay? I did this, I said this to her, and she said this to me. That's first person point of view. So you've got those couple of choices. Yeah, you could do second person point of view. Second person means you. You did this and you said this. That's a very unusual way to tell a story, but it's not impossible. And you know what? It has been done. So you have that option as well. But just so you know, first person, third person are the most popular, and third person is definitely the most popular. If you go into a bookstore or a library and look at the children's section, or even just novels for anybody, you're going to find most of them are written in a third person point of view. Next, symbolism. There needs to be at least one element of symbolism in your story. What is that going to be? Okay? Keep in mind, symbolism has to do with a thing that represents something greater than itself. That is a very simplified definition of what symbolism is. You need to have that in your book. So let me give you an example. In my book, this little bunny has a favorite toy that he always carries with him, and he's going to have it with him on this adventure. It's a red kite, okay? That's a symbol. That red kite, as I start to develop the story, is going to take on more meaning. So here's what I mean by that. Maybe this bunny wants to go beyond the normal boundaries of his world. He lives in a very small world. His parents are very protective, and he wants to explore. He wants to go beyond what his parents have let him see, and he wants to see more of that. He wants to see the whole forest. This kite is symbolic of this bunny's want and need to get out of his comfort zone and explore the world, right? Because that's what kites do. They fly above us. They go way, way high in the sky, and they can see much further than we can see. Also, it's red. There's a reason why I made it a red kite. Red is also symbolic. It's red because red, in this case, signifies passion. It's the passion of this bunny. It represents his passion to explore the world around him. Can you see how that's a symbol? It's not just a kite. It's not just a toy. It is, but it's more than that, and that's why it's symbolic. The symbolism comes into play when I start to talk about the meaning of this kite and what it means to this bunny and what it's going to do and what it's going to help him do in this story. That's why it's symbolic. So you need an example. You need an element of symbolism in your story. If you don't have one yet, you can add one, okay? It's not that hard to do. Find something of significance and throw it into your story and wrap the story around it and see what happens. That really is what creative writing is all about. Setting. You need to have a setting. My setting is, for the most part, in a forest. So that's what I'm going to say. The story takes place in a forest. The bunnies live in a home which is in the forest, but then there's the greater forest beyond that. And that is the setting. That's the place where the story is going to take place. Style. I find that my students have more trouble with this than anything else, even more than symbolism. And I think it's because I'm asking you guys to look at your own style, and maybe you're not even aware of what your style is. But believe me, everybody has a style. You can't help it. You write a certain way, and that's your writing style, all right? And I am talking about writing here because this is a writing class. So you need to figure out what is your writing style. I can give you a hint. As you're writing this story, you are writing it for a little kid, correct? So how are you going to change your writing so that it appeals to that little kid? Remember, this is an emergent reader, someone who's like, 4, 5, 6 years old. You're not going to write a story for them the same way you would write an analytical essay for me, are you? For me, you're doing college writing, but for that little kid, you're changing your style. So ask yourself, how are you changing your style when you're writing for that little kid? Are you going to simplify your word choice a little bit? Are you going to make your sentences a little bit smaller? Think of children's authors that you're familiar with. For example, Dr. Seuss. I bet every one of you knows who Dr. Seuss is. He has a very distinctive style. When you hear a Dr. Seuss book, you know it's Dr. Seuss, don't you? Well, think about why. Ask yourself, what is it about that style that you recognized? That's what makes it his style. We could say that he likes to rhyme a lot, right? Rhyming always happens in his book. Well, rhyming is a style. Simple rhyming is a style. He also uses humor and goofiness. That's a style too. He has a tendency to make up fake words. They're interesting sounding and they're humorous and funny and long, but they're fake. Well, that's a style too. He uses invented vocabulary in his writing. That's a style. So these are all things that you can pull from when you're talking about your own writing style, okay? And finally is the theme. Remember, the theme is the big idea. My theme in my story that I'm working on, that I'm making up right now, is a theme of wanting to explore the world around you. That's the theme I'm going with, okay? So that's what I'm going to write basically. My theme is about exploration and the larger idea there. What does it mean to explore your world around you? And when things are scary, how do we push ourselves to get out of our comfort zone and explore the world around us? That's a theme. That all has to do with the theme of exploration. So that's what I'm going to write right there. In a couple of sentences, I'm going to define what that's going to mean in my story. Now that's it, okay? Those are the 7 elements. You have to have, remember, you have to have these 7 elements in your story. Don't start thinking about the essay yet, okay? I want you to think today, just focus on just getting this story done so that tomorrow I'm going to put out another lecture, another video lecture, and I'm going to talk about how to start thinking about that essay, okay? But this is a big part of it. This is going to help you because this is going to make sure that you have these important elements in your story so that when it comes time to write the essay, you're pretty much set. You've got the story and you've got reasons for why you chose how to address these 7 elements, and you're in a perfect position to start writing that essay, okay? So that's it for today. Fill out this thing. Fill out this worksheet. All right, this is going to be worth points, okay? So you're going to hand this in when you hand in your essay and the story. So for today, focus on this. Get that story written. Fill this thing out beforehand or after or during, whatever works for you. Doesn't matter, but do fill this out and get that story done. And I will talk to you again tomorrow, all right?